Before he was a global superstar known as The Rock, Dwayne Johnson was just a young man with big dreams and very little to his name. Back in the 1990s, life wasn't easy. His home, a small room he could barely afford. His mode of transport, a beat-up blue Ford Thunderbird that had seen better days. This car was no luxury. The windshield was cracked, the paint was peeling, and the rearview mirror was held together with duct tape. Every trip was a gamble. It could break down at any moment. But for Dwayne, it wasn't just a car, it was a lifeline. It carried him to football practices, to auditions, and sometimes to nowhere in particular when he needed a moment to dream. That Thunderbird was more than a vehicle. It was a companion through his toughest days, a silent witness to his struggles and triumphs. It represented hope and possibility. Little did he know, years later, this car would become more than just a memory. It would become a beacon of hope for someone walking a path just like his own. Fast forward to today. Dwayne Johnson, now one of Hollywood's biggest stars, stood at the center of a buzzing fan event. Hundreds of people lined up, hoping to catch a moment with the man they'd admired for years. Among them was Ryan, a 22-year-old art student who had spent weeks saving up for this very moment. Ryan wasn't just another fan. To him, meeting Dwayne Johnson meant more than an autograph or a photo. It meant finally standing face-to-face with the person whose story had inspired him to keep going. He'd followed Dwayne's journey from struggle to stardom, and it had kept him motivated through his own challenges. As Ryan approached the table, his hands trembled slightly. Clutched tightly in his grip was a worn sketchbook filled with drawings, letters, and pieces of his heart. When it was his turn, he stepped forward and looked up at Dwayne, his voice shaking but resolute. "You've changed my life," he said, handing over the sketchbook. Dwayne opened it and began flipping through the pages. What he saw wasn't just art, it was a story. Ryan's story. A story of struggle, perseverance, and an unyielding determination to succeed. And at that moment, something inside Dwayne shifted. This wasn't just another fan. This was someone whose journey mirrored his own. Ryan's story was one of sacrifice and grit. By day, he worked 3 part-time jobs: scrubbing tables at a diner, restocking shelves at a local store, and delivering groceries on his worn-out bicycle. By night, he poured every ounce of energy he had left into his art, sketching in a tiny apartment that barely had enough light to see. His bike, his only means of transport, often left him drenched in the rain or frozen in the cold. But he didn't complain. To Ryan, these struggles weren't setbacks, they were stepping stones. Each page of his sketchbook told a piece of his story: the exhaustion, the hope, the drive to one day achieve something greater. What stood out most to Dwayne as he listened was Ryan's unwavering spirit. No matter how hard life got, Ryan refused to stop chasing his dreams. It was a determination that felt deeply familiar. It reminded Dwayne of himself, years ago, when he was just a young man with nothing but ambition and an old car to keep him going. That night, long after the fan event ended, Dwayne Johnson couldn't get Ryan's story out of his head. As he sat in a quiet parking lot, staring out at the Miami skyline, he found himself thinking about his own journey, the struggles, the moments of doubt, and the people who had helped him along the way. Dwayne had never forgotten the kindnesses shown to him during his toughest days. A coach who believed in him when no one else did. A friend who loaned him money when his pockets were empty. These moments, small as they seemed, had made all the difference. And now, sitting in that parking lot, Dwayne realized it was his turn to pay it forward. He picked up his phone and made a call. His mind was set. He wasn't just going to encourage Ryan, he was going to give him something real, something life-changing. And with that, a plan began to take shape. The next day, Ryan received a call inviting him back to the venue. He assumed it was for something small, like a signed poster or a quick photo. But when he arrived, what he saw left him speechless. In the parking lot stood Dwayne Johnson, smiling warmly beside a gleaming blue Ford Thunderbird. The car looked pristine, fully restored, and radiated under the sunlight. Dwayne held a set of keys in his hand and said, "This was my first car. It got me through some of the toughest times in my life. Now it's yours." Ryan froze, his mind racing to process what was happening. Tears welled up in his eyes as he stepped closer, running his hands along the car's polished surface. For Ryan, this wasn't just a car, it was a symbol of hope. It was a reminder that no matter how hard life got, someone believed in him. Overcome with emotion, Ryan hugged Dwayne tightly, tears streaming down his face. He tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come. Around them, a small crowd of onlookers cheered and clapped, their phones capturing the moment. For Dwayne, this was about more than just giving away a car. It was about showing Ryan and everyone watching that small acts of kindness can create ripples far beyond what we imagine. He knew what it felt like to struggle, and he wanted Ryan to know he wasn't alone. As Ryan sat behind the wheel for the first time, a smile broke through his tears. It wasn't just a car, it was a new beginning. Dwayne Johnson isn't just known for his movies or his wrestling career, he's also recognized as someone who never forgets where he came from. After the event, he reflected on this moment in an interview, his voice filled with sincerity. "That car represented my journey," he said, smiling. "It was old, broken, and unreliable, just like I felt sometimes. But it got me through." Giving it to Ryan wasn't just about the car, it was about reminding him that no matter how tough things get, you can push through. Throughout his career, Dwayne has built a legacy not just as an entertainer, but as someone who genuinely cares about others. Behind the scenes, he's quietly helped countless fans, donated millions to charity, and supported communities in need. Whether it's surprising a struggling family with a home, visiting kids in hospitals, or simply making someone's day with a kind gesture, Dwayne's impact goes far beyond the screen. Ryan's story is just one of many, but it speaks to the heart of who Dwayne is, a man who knows what it means to struggle and uses his platform to lift others up. This moment, captured by fans and shared around the world, became a symbol of hope, kindness, and the power of believing in each other. Dwayne's message was clear. No matter how far you've come, never forget to reach back and help someone else along the way. With the keys to his new car in hand, Ryan felt a surge of emotions: gratitude, joy, and most of all, hope. As he slid into the driver's seat of the restored Thunderbird, he ran his fingers over the steering wheel, almost as if he couldn't believe it was real. This wasn't just a car. It was a reminder that someone believed in him, that his hard work and determination had been noticed. As he drove down a scenic road, the sunlight streaming through the windows, Ryan's mind began to race with possibilities. For so long, he had struggled just to get by. But now, this moment felt like a turning point. His sketchbook, sitting open on the passenger seat, represented the dreams he'd been chasing for years. In the distance, a billboard of Dwayne Johnson smiled down, almost like a silent cheer, urging him to keep going. The road ahead was long, but Ryan now had a renewed sense of purpose. Every mile he drove in that Thunderbird was a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there's always a way forward. This wasn't just the end of a story. It was the beginning of a new chapter, a chapter filled with possibility, determination, and the belief that kindness can change lives. And in that moment, as Ryan smiled and drove toward his dreams, he carried with him a message that will last forever. No matter how tough life gets, never stop moving forward. And so, what began as a simple fan encounter became a life-changing moment of inspiration. This brings us to the end of the story. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing tales of kindness, resilience, and hope.